He's just a millionaire with a large inheritance and eager clientele. He's quitting. He is quitting. It's over. Harumph. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Soap Lore, the official gathering place for newbies, novices, and OG diehard fans of the golden age of primetime. I'm your host, Jet, viewing and reviewing the soapiest, sudsiest primetime storylines of 1985. We are back on the West Coast doing the absolute most. So whether you're new to this or true to this, sit back and enjoy. Tell the kids it's time to play outside or out of sight. Tell babe no questions, suggestions, or concerns for the next 25 to 35 minutes. Everyone else in earshot, cool, quiet, or kicked out are your only options because we are watching our stories. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is Soap Lore. Hello, party people. Welcome back to another fun-filled edition of Soap Lore. I hope your day is shaping up well. I can't wait to get into this one. The last episode was a little bit slow, a little bit laggy, but we already know on Falcon Crest, that just means they are winding up for something extra special. And this episode did not disappoint. There may not have been any explosives. There may not have been any shocking reveals. But we have plenty of action. And dare I say it, do I smell a new rivalry? I certainly hope so. But before we jump into all that, I've got a little bit of house cleaning to do. I need to make a correction. We're going to jump into some fan mail and maybe a little deeper into some predictions. All this and more on Season 4 of Falcon Crest Acid Test. I almost forgot to tell you, pour yourself up something bubbly and bright. It is unseasonably warm today, so I'm going to have just some regular coconut water. So I was sifting through some of the notes and some of the comments. I don't think everybody watched, but those of you who did go back and watch Body Rock, you see exactly what I mean. Body Rock was a good time. Fully did not expect to have it. Thought I would just make fun of them the whole time. Yes, it was cheesy. Yes, it was corny. Yes, the acting was less than great. But what more? That's what you want in a dance film. I certainly don't expect Oscar-worthy performances if they're talking. Now, if it was all about the movement, then yeah, but you knew what it was. Do you remember that song? It's like, I think it's called Blinded by the Light. It's like, blinded by the light, wrapped up like a deuce. I thought for years that he was saying blinded by the light, chapped up like a dude, and then whatever else he said. So I'm picturing like some Western guy. No, that's not at all what he says. He says blinded by the light, wrapped up like a deuce, as in a car. I had no idea what that meant. Similar thing happened. Funny thing happened with that Body Rock song. It is called Smooth Talker, and unfortunately, I thought Lorenzo Lamas said, I'm going to stuff you like an animal, eat you like a cannibal, something, something, something. I was clutching my pearls. And based on the previous statements in the song, I'm not far off. What he has said was, I'm going to hunt you like an animal. Then he's going to eat you like a cannibal. If I'm going to make fun of you, I'm going to make fun of what you said, not what was implied. Okay, but same difference. I thought I'd clear that up. And you guys came all the way through with the names for Lily Mae. A couple episodes back, I wanted you guys to help me come up with a name. Valine, the Vidalia Onion Queen, over on Knots Landing. We need to come up with a name for her vagabond mama, and you guys did not disappoint. Someone says she should be called the Petty Theft Princess. I love that. Garth Crooks. Patsy declined. Loretta, lend me $1. Mrs. Johnny Cash App. Y'all are messy for that. Sticking with the beauty pageant trope, we have Mrs. Sticky Fingers 1981 and Misdemeanors. I love them all. Let that marinate for a little bit and see who she comes up with. I really like Mrs. Johnny Cash App. Loretta, lend me $1. I love it. Well, I promise you one thing. Nobody on this show was going to ask you to lend them $1 because they are paid. We're jumping into an incredibly well-dressed cast on Falcon Crest. Man, they look so good. The budget was off the charts. It was amazing. But check out this episode, Season 4, Episode 17, Acid Test. At the end of the last episode, I left this part off because I assumed they'd talk about it at the beginning of Episode 17, and I was right. Cole and Chase are somehow called down to the wine house, and there is this faux picnic set up. There's 2 wine glasses and a bottle of wine. Excuse me, not wine. Sparkling champagne. Sparkling wine. Whatever. My wine knowledge is very small. I'm not really sure which one is which. I don't know if there's a difference. This particular bottle of, let's call it champagne, has a note on it that reads something to the effect, this one's a little bit off. Guess which other ones are as well. Something like that. Which leads us into this episode. Somebody has poisoned the watering hole. There's a snake in my boots. The champagne has been ruined. They decided not to gamble, though. They're going to destroy the whole lot, lest anyone become poisoned, lest anyone decides to sue them. It's a whole thing. Nicole is extremely pissed about this, and he will show us at every opportunity for the rest of the show. There's something about Cole's face that I just can't quite take seriously. He looks like a 4-year-old to me every time he scrunches up his, I'm mad, I'm angry. Urgh. He didn't get to pout for too long before Richard and Angela show up. Now, Angela got word from one of the workers at the vineyard. Well, she comes down there to see what's what. Chase, what is all this? What are you doing? Now, Chase has that look on his face like, oh, you don't know? Richard, you don't know? You both don't know? She's like, what is going on, little boy? Somebody ruined our champagne. The acid test came back positive. Everything's ruined. Now, she is, okay. It's not that she's happy per se, or maybe it's not that she's not happy, but also it doesn't seem like she did this. So Chase is looking back and forth and back between Richard and Angela while Cole is just brooding like, oh, I'm so upset. Don't you guys look so surprised? And Angela's like, little boy, this is not my style. I mean, it's good for me because I didn't want it sold, but it's not my style. Her point is, Chase, you can't just let people threaten you. Why don't you call their bluff? And Chase is like, yeah, likely story, right, Angie? And he's like, I didn't do it. I already told you I didn't do it. So he looks over at Richard and says, well, Richard, what do you think? This seems like this isn't out of your wheelhouse. Richard is not one to entertain any riffraff fool. He calmly reminds Chase that if this conversation is now an accusation, he would be glad to get his lawyer goons on the phone and sue Chase new money ass with the quickness. Angela is dang near gleeful at this point, and she offers to buy out Chase. Like, yeah, I mean, nephew, I could help you out. He's like, get on my face. Thought I'd try. Cole continues to brew, clenching his jaw the whole time. Here's the thing. I'm trying to decide. Like, it's very obvious to me that he's good looking, right? He's a young guy, strong jawline, but he's so wholesome that I can't take him serious. He's pissed and he's throwing glasses up against the wall while he and Chase are cleaning things up. He's, oh my God, my legacy is ruined. He's not taking it well. Melissa shows up a little later. He snaps at Melissa when she reminds him that he now has the formula for some delightful sparkling wine. She's like, babe, you've done it once. Just do it again. It's a bad batch. This is part of business. You're going to mess up every now and again. Just do it again. Is she crazy? How ridiculous is that? He snaps at her because this is the dumbest idea ever. Melissa, it's over. I mean, it's not like he's a manager at a highly successful vineyard or anything, right? It's not as if grapes grow on vines in a valley in California with the perfect temperature that he just happens to live on. Gosh, she's so just dense. He's just a millionaire with a large inheritance and eager clientele. He's quitting. He is quitting. It's over. Harumph. Now this drags on and on a little bit for the rest of the episode, but by the end of it, he is glistening. He is shirtless. He is working hard, getting back to his grimy roots. You know, he had to come up through the mud. And all is well because he's hella hopeful. You know what, Melissa? I think I will try again. It's lovely, isn't it? And I'm glad he's willing to try it, and it must be in the water because Angela has also decided to try something she normally wouldn't do again. She has agreed to fully support Lance in this whole attempted murder case, that is. So they are about to go to pre-trial, and they're in Angela's study. Reardon, the manimal, is coaching Angela and Lance on what not to say. It is no secret that neither one of them are very prone to listen to other people. They are combative. They are argumentative. They are related. So he's like, okay, please, for the love of God, just listen to what I'm saying and don't do anything else. Especially you, Lance. Angela's like, yeah, Lance, she just wants Lance to sit there, shut up and look pretty. Now telling him that and telling her that is a recipe for disaster. We all know that. Lance is like, no, grandmother, we need to tell them my story, my truth. She's like, Lance, are you crazy? Are you nuts? You're going to stand in front of God and everybody and tell that judge that you were kidnapped, had your car stolen, they freed you just in the nick of time, your car was returned, washed up, gassed up, and you didn't kill me? Do I look like Boo Boo the Fool? Do you think the judge is Boo Boo the Fool? Sit down and shut up, don't say nothing. As likely a story as that is, it is the truth. So Lance barks back, now how many times are you going to punish me for something I didn't do? Now if he knows his grandmother, whether you did it or not, you're going to be punished. You're lucky she's speaking to you, and usually she's not out there looking for the truth. But the truth in this case for Angela is that she doesn't want him to mess up their money. You see what I'm saying? Like, okay, listen. You damaging the family name could mess up my money, which is inherently going to mess up. It's going to mess up what little money Emma is going to inherit because she's not a dude. Plus, the real truth is that there's a new judge who's in town and they feel like he's going to be really harsh because he's not in Angela's pocket. She has not had time to sink her claws into him, so they're going to have to ride this out on the straight and narrow. They're hoping that if Angela doesn't want to testify or if she wants to drop the charges, that the charges will be dropped. But they're so worried about the cops who quote unquote witnessed Lance trying to run her off the road, which is odd. Now that I'm thinking about it, I didn't think they were there at the time. I think they were there right after. Either way, they saw his car. They didn't actually see his purse. I really enjoyed this scene because Jane Wyman was Lorenzo Lamas's real life godmother, and they were very close. And that you could feel the sort of the familiarness in it. It seemed like a real argument you would have with a parent or a sibling or somebody that you were close enough to who's not listening to you. It felt very, very genuine. At one point, Reardon, the manimal, is like, this backfighting is not going to get you anywhere. She was like, Angela's got to have the last word. Baby, you ain't even seen nothing yet. Something to that. So despite all that, doesn't matter how good the relationship is in real life. On camera, on Falcon Crest, it's not looking good because despite all of the evidence against him, his story, the trains, Lance is the only suspect. And it's not his grandmother's job to decide whether or not he tried to kill her. I learned this recently. When you commit a crime in the United States, like murder or something like that, it is the state of California versus you. A person doesn't get to jump in and say, oh, no, I can't. He didn't do it. Yeah, we saw him try to kill you. So it is the state of California versus Lance Compton. Lance being the only suspect in this case is not only a problem for he and Angela. It's causing a rift between other friends. Richard and Maggie are at odds. Now, Richard owns the radio station now. He wants Maggie on this story like white on right. Maggie is on edge because her mother has disappeared like a thief in the night. He wants her to just really press in, and she's pissed because she's like, Richard, you're sensationalizing this. If I'm gonna do the story, I'm going to do it my way, and you're not gonna like it. Which adds insult to injury when you think about it, because he and Melissa and maybe Terry are the only people who know for a fact. No, Terry doesn't know. He and Melissa are the only people who know that Florida man is the one who tried to run Angela off the side of the road. Maggie knows that it wasn't Lance, but she's none the wiser about who it actually was. So they're going back and forth, and Richard is getting increasingly more and more pissed off. He's yelling, he's at the top of his lungs, this is journalism, and Maggie's like, no, dude, you're obsessed with this. I can't do this. And he's like, Maggie, why are you fighting me on this? She's like, I can't do this. I'm worried about my own mother. I need to check in on her. And I'm just, quite frankly, Richard, I'm sorry. I think it's best that we part ways. Now, Maggie is good and rich. She is papered up at this point, so she really don't need this job. But it is remarkable how easily she has fallen into these quote unquote investigative reporter jobs without actually having any background in it. I thought she was a freelance writer, writing like romance novels and crap. And then she went from that to being an investigative reporter about the immigrants or whatnot that one season. Then she went to be a screenwriter. That movie fell through, but she got all the money. Then, yeah. Maggie does a lot without actually doing anything. You know what I'm saying? Now, this is fun to watch. Richard is like the Grinch. You remember when the Grinch's heart started to get bigger? You can see Richard's heart actually break. Because Maggie, dare I say it, is his only real friend. Sure, he has Pam, who he pays. His daughter loves him, but she feels away because he feels away about Lance. Chase is his brother, but they're not close. Maggie's his only pal. And you can see how he's like, oh no, my friend. Plus, he was today years old when he found out that her mother slipped out of her life like a thief in the night. Now, in an attempt to help his one and only friend Maggie locate her mother and probably make amends, he tracks down the PI who found Charlotte in the first place. Now, I've forgotten that guy was a double agent. He was working for Angela and he was working for Maggie. Richard has Pam do some digging between her sexy trysts with the manimal and shopping for lightweight leather. Quickly discovers that the PI was a double-dipping, double backstabbing agent working for Big Ange. He pulls a guy in his office and he starts demanding answers for all the questions. Why didn't you tell Maggie her mama was a gambler? Why did you bring her here knowing that, etc.? Why did you set this woman up 2 streets down from a racing track that he built? We don't want to talk about that. At first, the PI denies everything, but then eventually he relents and he admits that Angela knew all about Charlotte's gambling long before Maggie went looking for her real mother. There's never been an explanation for that. If you recall, at the little garden party, she just let it blurt out. I guess she didn't like the way Maggie's dad was looking at her, so she told his only daughter, his oldest daughter, that she was adopted. I don't know how she would know that, and nobody's ever really said anything about that. I can't imagine that Charlotte would have any ties to Falcon Crest, and she didn't seem to know who Angela was, so I don't know. I'm sure that'll come up eventually. Anyway, Richard destroys a man's life, but not after sending him overseas to do something. I was halfway listening and I didn't want to rewind. He calls Maggie and he tells her all about her mom and where she is. Now, as happenstance would have it, Maggie is on her way to LA. She's going to surprise Chase because he's in LA. So is Mommy Dearest. Why is Chase in Los Angeles? To meet up with one of his former stepfathers. That's right, one of his former stepfathers. A rich guy who owns a yacht. Tells Chase to be ready 1 p.m. the following day. They're going to have lunch. This guy is adorable, and he's genuinely sad to hear about Jacqueline catching a stray bullet to death. Now, the aviator Adonis peppers his ex-stepdad with pleasantries at first before going for the jugular. Hey, who's the cartel? Daddy dears don't play that. Matter of fact, Chase is immediately escorted off of the boat. Excuse me, the yacht. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Chase is sharp enough to cut butter in this episode. He's wearing a light gray 3-piece suit, silk tie, fresh blowout, camel-colored Chelsea boots, a pair of amber-colored aviator glasses. Ugh. I was impressed, but I suppose you would want to look extra fresh on the yacht. Well, after his stepdad's goons unhand him, he climbs into an old school, well, I guess it wouldn't be an old school at that time. It'd be like a 1984 silver Crown Victoria that matches his outfit exactly. Ugh, this is exactly what I'm talking about when I talk about Falcon Crest. They do not come to play with you. He came to eat you up. High fashion at high noon, and I'm here for every second of it. Looked amazing. Actually, everybody looks amazing this whole episode. I'm like, oh my God, it's 1985. And I'm like, where did you get this? Because he looks so good at high noon for no reason. Cole's whole, I'm working so hard shtick seems extra ridiculous to me this whole episode. By all intents and purposes, Chase grew up in wealth. Or at the very least in the upper echelon of middle-class America, mid-century, peak American prosperity. Jacqueline, when she came to visit, even before that, it seems like she was extremely wealthy. She ends up running a cartel. When she came to visit them, she's peppering them with all these wonderful gifts. She owns vineyards in France and in Italy. Like, it isn't like they came from absolutely nothing. Cole even has an inheritance. So this whole, oh my gosh, I've lost everything I worked so hard to build thing is just ridiculous. Where is this coming from? He's actually been pouting a lot now that I think about it. The last episode, he threw something at the mirror. Every time you see Cole in an episode, he's pissed off about something. I don't know why he suddenly needs to be all brooding as if it's some sort of competition, but we got one bad boy on the show, one bad boy only. We don't need another one. Sorry. It's not working. I'm sorry. Plus, his fiance is loaded. So, why are you throwing a fit? What exactly are you doing? Anyway, back to Chase. So, Chase hops into his 1-ton matching accessory, and he's quickly surrounded by and apprehended by these goons. They take him to another car, right? He's looking a little nervous. They throw a little something over his head. Next time we see him, he's entering the sort of unmarked building. You can hear that it's really, really echoey. Someone says, remove his mask. They remove his eye mask. And it's quickly replaced by this beam of light right in his face. Bam. So he can't see anything anyway. Turns out it's his stepfather. Cole's like, what was this all? That was rude. What was that about? I was about to eat lobster. Been looking forward to that shrimp cocktail all day. And his stepdad's like, I'm so sorry. I had to put on a show just in case the cartel was watching. It is worth noting that they are in an auditorium. Looks like a high school auditorium. Stepdad says, Chase, I assure you no one will ever hear any part of this conversation. in an auditorium. So Chase immediately looks to his right and he says, well, can you tell your goon to unhand me and leave? And his stepdad's like, oh yeah, of course, sorry. Scram, Brian. Brian's like, sure thing, or whatever his name is. So they commenced having a conversation in an auditorium. I don't want to make a big deal about this, but I thought, I'm not a builder, I'm not an architect, I'm not an engineer. I thought auditoriums were designed so that you didn't necessarily need a microphone. Your voice just kind of echoes from the back. So like if you're doing a play, you don't have to. Never mind. I digress. They're having this conversation on stage. And the stepdaddy is like, listen, I haven't heard from anybody in the cartel in a minute, but you just never know. Your mother, oh, God love her. She was hot. She was a handful, but she was also unprincipled. She'd been washing money for the cartel through this Swiss bank for years and years and years. She had a partner named Johann Riedman. We all met him before he blew up. Stepdad explains that Johann was ruthless and that his mom was a little bit afraid of him. So Chase is like, okay, dang, this is the first time he's got a name. Okay, well, do you know where Riedman is now? His stepdad's like, yeah, he's dead. Chase is like, dead? Stepfather goes, yeah, quiet as kept. Word on the street is that his son killed him. His super secret son nobody knew about. Heard he killed him, blew him up or something. Chase is like, dang, that's crazy. Do you know his son's name? Yeah, his name is Gustav. So if nothing else, Chase now has a name to go on. He's been doing a really, really, really good job of being relentless without being reckless all this time. Somehow he's managed to stay under the radar. I guess because he didn't really go to Angela's house a lot, so that Bird is not recording any of his conversations, even though Gustav has way too many names. I can't keep up with him. The Nazi child is keeping really good tabs on everybody. But the stepfather is looking at Chase saying, listen, dude, I understand this is intriguing. I can understand you want to know what's going on because of your mom, but please, you have a beautiful family. You have a career. You have a vineyard. Just let this go. Please let this go. This is not worth it. You do not want to cross these people. Chase thanks him quietly, but assures him that he must forge ahead. He must keep on this path. So stepdad's like, okay, cool. But just so you know, if you ever call me again, I'm definitely not picking up the phone. So I know your son. Meanwhile, back at Falcon Crest, you remember last episode, speaking of the Nazi child, he asked Emma to go to the play or the opera or something with him? Well, the day has come, and to my surprise, Emma is sitting on the steps inside the house, on the stairs, dressed like she's going to prom, circa 1978. I'm like, what the heck is going on? She's got like this white flowy dress. She looks like she's going to prom. Angela comes around the corner and kind of rolls her eyes. She's like, girl, what are you doing? Why are you sitting on them steps all eager like? And Emma's like, I don't want to run the risk of you running off my date tonight. So I'm going to sit right here till he gets here, and then I'm gonna leave with him. Angela's like, oh my God, girl, go upstairs. I'll tell you when he gets here. Emma's like, you definitely won't. I ain't going nowhere. I'm gonna sit right here. So Angela sits by her and she's like, my God, girl, why are you so dead? Why are you he was looking at you like you were a steak. Angela's disgusted by that, but Emma was like, yeah, I saw that. He was totally looking at me like I was a steak. She's all for it. She ain't been outside in a long time. And Angela's like, my God, girl, why do you need to sit here looking all horny and whatnot? Can't you pull yourself together? Emma's like, I look like how I look. It is what it is. And there is zero chance of me changing my facial expression or not going out with the handsome little Frenchman. Well, right about that time, there's a rat-a-tat-tat at the door. He shows up looking rather dapper, if I might add. And they begin to have a wonderfully enchanting evening. Looks like they went walking by the water. It was nice and cool. She was able to wear her fur. He was able to wear his pea coat and scarf. She tells him about her life, that yes, she doesn't have a whole lot going on. She lives a quiet life, doesn't have a lot of responsibility, but she is not lonely. Occupies her time with books and long walks and poetry. And he's like, oh yeah, I could tell you totally look like a poet. I have to agree with him. If there are people standing in line and I talk to Emma for 2 seconds, I could tell you she writes poetry. Maggie would want you to think she writes poetry. Terry would want you to think she reads poetry, but Emma does both, 100%. Anyway, he's like, yeah, you just look like the type, baby. Ma. I don't know what that was. Ooh, la, la, la. And she's looking at him behind his eyes. She goes, well, I see you too. And there's something very dangerous, very, very dangerous about you. And then she proceeds to kiss them all in the mouth because, of course, what's hotter than someone being dangerous, obviously. They kissy kissy boo boo face all on the ward. It's cute. I'm not gonna lie, it's really cute. He is dangerous crazy. She's a different kind of crazy. I wouldn't be surprised if she okie doked him in the end. Maggie is really the star of this episode. She's still reeling from the sudden departure of her birth mother, so she's way, way, way more passionate and more vocal than she usually is on any other episode. Because of Richard, she can reach her mom, or catch her rather, in LA. She does just that. Her mom is at a halfway house on her way to a job interview. She tries to ignore Maggie when Maggie calls her in this like killer tan outfit. Again, the wardrobe is so on point this episode. And they end up having a quick heart-to-heart. They go to a park, and Maggie just says, Mom, it's not that you took the pearls. So in between Cole sort of throwing a fit over the graves, he does other stuff. He delivers mail. No. Maggie finds a pawn ticket. Cole takes it to the pawn shop like a good son. And sure enough, he's able to retrieve the pearls. So they're like, oh, crap. This all happened before they left. So when she's talking to her mom, she's like, I don't really care about the jewelry. I don't care about any of that. It's just that we had so many heart-to-hearts. We were really getting to know each other. We were really becoming mother and daughter, and you couldn't tell me this. I don't know why you don't think you could tell me this. And her mom explains, I was just so ashamed, Maggie. I'm so sorry. I really, really thought I had this licked. I thought I was completely cured, but I'm not. And she's like, Mama, don't even worry about it. Her mom just says, I really wanted you to be proud of me. Maggie says, I am proud of you. I do believe in you. We're going to get you the help. What she doesn't say is, I am rich. I'm getting richer every single day. Richer every single day. I have rich friends. Don't even worry about it. I'm going to get you the best treatment money can buy. Which leads us to my two most favorite scenes of this whole episode. Really quick side note. It is Maggie's birthday week, and we do see the return of her dad, who was in San Diego giving some speech at the dirt archaeologist place. And for the first time, I saw Maggie like in a muumuu. The quintessential 80s colors. What are the two most prominent lady colors in the 80s? Pink and purple, of course. I would say 80s, 90s, 2000s, whatever. She is wearing like this asymmetrical muumuu where one shoulder is pink, the other is purple. And I'm like, I know at least two of my aunties have that same gown to this day. Back at Falcon Crest, or later on, Chase and Angela unite in a petty union to throw some shade at Richard and his wine. So Richard thinks he's being real cute. He calls a meeting, and of course they're going to meet in Angela's study, the three owners of Falcon Crest being he, Chase, and Angela. So Chase and Angela already have their eyes rolled in the back of their head. They already look like, here he go again. Richard doesn't care. He didn't invite them there to talk turkey. He wanted to rub something in their face. Guess who's reaping what Francesca sowed? Doo-dah. Actually, Francesca didn't even sow that. Angela and Chase did. Richard wants to gloat about his new wine, which at the time of this meeting has begun mass production. It'll be in the homes of millions and millions across the country before you can say sleeping with super secret sexy sisters equals success. Super secret sexy sisters equals success. Sleeping with super sexy sisters equals success. I can't say that 5 times fast. He is beyond proud of the wine he's producing from the eye-bang Francesca grape. Angela scoffs and tells him there is nothing noble, little boy. I would not brag about that cheap, run down, thrown together table wine you slinging together. Only reason you have any success with that box wine is because you're slapping my family's hard-earned label on it. You in there, don't brag. It's not cute. Chase also rolls his eyes and scoffs. This is my favorite part. He tells Richard along the line something like, I'll make sure that cheap lighter fluid never sees the light of day. And you look at Angela, she's actually smiling at him like, get him, nephew, get him. She actually does say, I could not agree more. And they can tell they're kind of sniggling at his cheap lighter fluid. Ooh, that's bad wine. Really there to just break this man's spirit. But of course, Richard, he don't care. He told you what he was going to do. Machines are going to make wine. I'm going to be a rich, rich man. And I see plenty of box wine at all the big stores everywhere I go. So he may have been on to something. Speaking of having an unbreakable spirit, have you ever seen the movie Unbreakable? I want to say it's probably 2000, between 2000 and 2003-ish, maybe even 1999. I don't know. But it stars Bruce Willis, almost said Bruce Wayne, and Samuel L. Jackson. And Samuel L. Jackson's character befriends Bruce Willis's character. And it's really, really subtle at first. You don't really see anything brewing beneath the surface. They don't really have anything in common, but they get along. Samuel L. Jackson has this condition where his bones are super duper brittle. So he's constantly breaking bones. Like from the time he was a baby on, his mother giving birth to him through the birth canal broke some of his bones. It's a horrible thing. There's a scene where he's on the Tilt-A-World and he has all these stuffed animals. You could tell he's a little kid. He's been wanting to do it all this time. Oh, great, great film. Bruce Willis's character is, unbeknownst to him, very, very strong. Like he never gets sick. He's never had the flu, never broken a bone, nothing. Nothing's ever really happened to him. And it's not like it's one of those things where everything is circumstantial. So he's just not noticing that nothing ever happens to him. By the end of the film, you understand why everything was set up the way it was, why Samuel L. Jackson's character was sort of obsessed with Bruce Willis's character. They're polar opposites. Sometimes that could be your best friend, or it could be your absolute perfect arch nemesis. When I think about Falcon Crest, there's no doubt that the biggest villain, the biggest player on this board is Angela Channing. She is ruthless. She is unshakable. She is unbreakable. She's focused. She's always finding a better way to do something. Underhanded, whatever she's got to do. Now, I, up until this episode, always thought that her most formidable opponent would be Melissa, because Melissa is a lot like her. She's younger. She doesn't have as much experience, but she's just as ruthless. She's just as focused. She's just as underhanded. I thought for sure it would be her. If not her, maybe Richard. Cutthroat, underhanding, got that big bite, you know what I mean? Not afraid to get his hands dirty, not really concerned with anyone's feelings. When you think about those three, they're actually the most alike. So no, that's probably not going to be your most formidable opponent, because you know every move they're going to make because you would do the same thing. So now enter Chase. Okay, there we go. He's a little bit different than Angela. He's just as focused. He's just as ruthless, only he doesn't use his powers for quote unquote evil. He's always doing the right thing. He's just as relentless. He's just as focused. He's just as unyielding. So I thought, okay, maybe Chase is her best opponent. All of that changed in one scene. So everyone's at the women folk are having lunch, are all at a round table at the racetrack. It is Maggie, Emma, Melissa, Terry, and Angie. Didn't know until that very moment that the biggest, baddest one of them all could be Maggie. Maybe not the biggest and baddest, but she's also not to be trifled with. Who better to be Angela's new arch nemesis? Hear me out. They're all sitting around the table. Maggie never loses her cool. She keeps that same smile on her face that Angela does. Her words aren't dripping with disdain, but she says, I'm paraphrasing here, this lunch would be perfect, but it's quite obvious that one of us is missing. My mother. My mother couldn't make it today because she has been checked into a rehab center. She is a gambler and she's on the mend. We're going to make sure she's going to be okay. And then she looks over, she says, Angela, I really have to thank you. I found out that you had a hand in bringing my mother back to me. Angela squirms in her seat for the first time. I've never seen her squirm nervously. Not really. Emma hears this and she's like, oh, girl, yeah. Mother had a whole private eye and everything. And then she's like, oh, oops. I wasn't supposed to know that. So now Angela's looking like, oh, okay, it really be your own. It really be your own. She recovers quickly enough and she says, oh, Maggie, I just felt so terrible after letting it slip that you were adopted at the garden party. I thought that was the least. Good save. Maggie goes, I'm proud of my mother and I'm so happy that she's now in my life. Angela, I'd like to raise a toast to you. I know that you were only acting out of the goodness of your heart. As a matter of fact, everyone at this table can attest to a time when you have helped them in their darkest hour. Okay, Maggie. Maggie wants all the smoke. So Melissa looks at Angela. She's like, yeah, I'll never forget everything you did for me and Joseph. Terry looks at Angela and goes, or how well you treated me when I first got into town. Oh. Even Emma, sweet, whimsical Emma says, yes, mother. Or how devoted you've always been your whole life to protecting me. Now, by this point, Angela, the perm rod goddess, is watching the table. It's like they brought in the big guns. They're all trying to attack. She doesn't let them see her sweat. She leans back in her seat as they raise a glass. They all hold it up and she goes, oh, you guys are exaggerating. No, we insist. So she says, all right then, I will accept your tributes in the spirit in which they are given. Oh, baby. I have never seen a masterclass of nasty nice better than this one on any of the soap operas. Who would have thought that Maggie Gioberti would be willing to stir the pot? She was super classy. And I love it because you look at she and Angela, they are polar opposites. They are the exact. Maggie's generous, warm, and open. If she helps someone, it's because she wants to help them. She's very forgiving. She has never used a single person against another person. But the thing that she and Angela have in common is their ability to keep cool. They're going to keep that same smile on their face. They're going to be lovely. They're going to be presentable. And now we know good sister Maggie is not afraid to go for the jugular. Oh, baby. This one really made my day. I thought, oh my God, is this the Bruce Willis / Samuel L. Jackson? Now, I know there's another movie they call it's Mr. Glass and Split. So it turned into a trilogy eventually, or whatever you call a foursome. I don't know, whatever the fourth movie is called. But it would be Unbreakable, Split, and then Mr. Glass. Yeah, Mr. Glass is the third one. I'm sorry, I thought there was 4. Beautiful. This is us getting to witness Maggie being outright hostile without actually being hostile. Oh, magnifique. Now this is a great place to leave off. I definitely left off a really juicy, really interesting turn of events that we will discuss on the next episode. In the meantime, in between time, let's all step up our accessory game. Dress like your car tomorrow. God, that was incredible. Stay hydrated, stay moisturized, mind your own business, and keep all of your drama on TV.